Rich. Thanks for being here with us, man. This is one of our first podcasts with PS. I think it is our first. So obviously you are most well known for the Elite Squad. So let's start off there. All right. Why and when was the Elite Squad created?
Okay. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be the first guest. Am I the first guest?
As you should be. You are officially the first guest.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm honored to be the first guest, so thank you.
No problem.
Why did Elite Squad start? It started in 2006. And to be honest with you, I had a brother that was playing at the time, and there was a bunch of other travel teams that were going on. I didn't know much about it. But, I got, when I was 23 years old at a local park, actually Mike White, who's still involved in our
legend.
Yeah, his son's a quarterback and going to be drafted, so we're rooting come April. But anyways, I met him through my dad, and at a local park, he had approached me and said, hey, I know you coach baseball, I know you played baseball, are you interested in being a head coach at a high school? And I said, yeah, I would love to. I was done playing at the time. And he goes, well, we have this school, university school, it's looking for a coach, whatever it is. And, I've known about you indirectly. Would you be interested in interviewing? So I did. I interviewed, and at 23 years old, I got the job. So, which was exciting, but at the same time, I was like, I don't have experience. I coached high school ball when I was done playing. I coached some high school ball, worked with the pitchers, stuff like that. But I knew I had to coach more in order before I went into my first season. So my brother was a freshman at the time, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do a summer team instead of having all these kids go out and my brother go play on another team. I go, for me as well, I want to do a summer team and get better as a coach. And just one thing led to another. Man, we were young. We were all freshmen. We played up in age, had a lot of success, and people kind of just started taking note of us, I guess. So it kind of happened indirectly. It wasn't this whole goal, hey, I'm going to start an organization and have a bunch of teams, and no, it was just I just did one team, and I thought I was going to be a high school head coach for 30 years, and that's all I was going to do. So it's pretty. I guess it kind of grew organically, in a sense where it just kind of happened. It was never this big vision of, oh, I want to do this or that. It was just, hey, I really love coaching. I want to get better at it, and let's see where it takes us. Right.
And then originally when you came on, you were the South Florida Elite, correct?
Correct. We were South Florida Elite Squad. We started. My dad started a team as a reward. He runs a travel league down here, and as a reward to the kids in their last season, he called it the Florida Premier FPBL, Florida Premier Baseball League, but he used to call it the FPBL Elite Squad. So it was basically an all-star team, and then what they would do is they did the FPBL Elite Squad a thank you to the kids that grew up in his league. Hey, I'm going to take you to one tournament to go celebrate it, and I got a chance to coach that team for the first time. So I kind of just stuck with the name. Most of the kids that played with me in that first year's team, I coached when they were 14U under the FPBL Elite Squad. So now that we weren't with FPBL, I said, you know what, I'm going to change it to South Florida Elite Squad.
Okay, that's worked. Worked nice.
It's worked out.
So what about the early days of the team? Can you kind of just talk about starting out a new program? I know you said you didn't have this grandeur vision starting out, but what was it like? Was it super organized? Was it a finely tuned machine? Kind of speak on that.
Yeah, no, that was no, it was not. I was your typical 23-year-old. Really trying to run a team and figure out as I went along. And I tell this to people all the time. Sergio Ambrose, he was instrumental to this organization and turning this into an organization. As I told you, Plex, my vision was just I'm going to coach high school ball for 30 years, and that was my life. I was going to be a PE teacher and coach high school ball for 30 years, and simple life. Yeah, no, I that's what I wanted to do. And we did a tryout. Going back into we started this team in 2006. Had the one team for 2 years, and then the following year, Sergio comes up to me and says, hey, we got to do a tryout, man. I'm getting a ton of phone calls. A lot of kids want to come and be part of it, And I was like, but we don't really have room. He goes, let's do another team. You can help out. You look, at that time, these kids, the kids that we started with were now going into their senior year. Most of them were committed to college. Myself and Sergio worked our tails off finding, because nobody knew about us. Nobody came to our games. We were, up and coming. So we really worked the phones and with colleges, and to make a long story short, he goes, look, I saw how much you helped out my own son. He goes, you could help out so many more kids, let's do a tryout. Maybe we do another team. So we do a tryout. Now, we don't have a website. We don't have, contacts or emails. It's just, this is 2008. We just did an open tryout, and no flyers, nothing, just word of mouth, and we had 90 kids show up, and we were so unprepared. It was, we probably missed out on so many good players because we weren't expecting that. There was no registration. It was just, hey, show up if you want to be part of Elite Squad, So we didn't have enough coaches. I threw BP till I couldn't throw anymore, and we did it. So that year we ended up having 4 teams. Total. That was the first year that we had multiple organizations. So 2009 summer, we had 4 teams: a 17U, two 17Us and two 15U teams, and two of them were ranked in the national top 5.
Right.
So the first year of us doing that, and Sergio was a huge part of that because I didn't know like how to put together a spreadsheet or a budget. I didn't know how to schedule. I didn't know any of that. I was 23, 24 years old, and it's just like, hey, I just want to coach baseball.
Right.
So Coach Ambrose was huge into getting to Elite Squad to where it is now, and he's the one who kind of started putting the vision in my head of how many kids we can help and do it the right way, and this is how you do it. So it was, he was huge.
And I know what Coach Ambrose means to all your kids. Like, I know he's a big, important part in the organization.
Absolutely.
And he stood out, coming to your events, just his energy.
Oh,
and we were always joking about, man, whatever that guy's, we need it because he's got that energy.
Yeah, he was loved by so many people, and he was huge. I can't, I try to tell, because people know that he was important to us, but I don't think most people know how important he was to us. Like, he was, like a mentor, a best friend, and when we were, 20 years apart, but I'd room with him every tournament, and we just shared a lot of special moments, and I owe him a lot because he's the one who kind of put this thing in motion.
All right, speak a little bit, if you don't mind, on your expansion. We see, we're on social media, we're following your website, and we see you all of a sudden you'll see, Elite Squad in other areas is winning events, and it looks like they're putting not only just teams out, but good teams. So kind of speak on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the expansion is something that we've tossed around for a few years, and I think that at least the way I've learned is you want to do it with the right people and have the right people involved. And it's not to say that the other people that approached us weren't, but I didn't know them. The people that we've expanded to in Texas and the Midwest and the Atlantic, these are all people that we have relationships with or that we knew through the game of baseball. So it's pretty cool to you have your friends representing you in a different part of the country. Our big vision for the expansion is to grow our organization and to eventually get these kids together for certain tournaments. That's the cool part about it. So we'll take the best players from Elite Squad Texas and the best players from Elite Squad Midwest and kind of reward them with going to, a big event, whether it be in the summer or the fall, the World Series or Jupiter or something like that, where you kind of combine forces and these kids all have the opportunity to play on that team no matter where they're from. So we're super excited about it. I think it's cool to see a kid from New Jersey wearing an Elite Squad hat. Makes me proud. Makes me very proud. And we had a funny story. When we first opened up, one of the coaches that's from Elite Squad Atlantic went to an indoor facility, and sure enough, they ran into a guy like, hey, that's Elite Squad hat. You know Richie? And then they were like, yeah. Well, I played with that guy in college, and he's now up in New Jersey. So it's pretty cool to see that, like how the brand has kind of gone nationally, and we're super excited for it.
When people talk about travel ball, there's a lot of different things that pop in their mind right away, good, bad, and different. What are a couple things that have just helped Elite Squad? Kind of speaking on what we were just talking about. Whenever people speak of Elite Squad, like, what do you want them to think? You know what I mean? Like, or if you have a family who, maybe this family, they were with you, man, from the whole time, and then when they're done, somebody walks up to them on the street and said, man, tell me why I need to play with Richie. Like, what do you hope that they say?
Right. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of things being said about travel ball, and nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect, whether it's high school ball, travel ball, nothing's perfect. But with us, what I want these people to feel is like they were part of our family for 3-4 years. Like, hey, that was one of the best times of my son's life, my life. The moments that we shared together. And I think, I'm not saying anything that nobody doesn't know, where travel sports in general, whether it's baseball, basketball, volleyball, they're expensive, and it's not cheap. I mean, you go to tournaments, you go to hotels, it's a lot of sacrifice. But, I'll say the story where I had a parent of mine, and I'll say his name, Greg Velez, who's the starting pitcher at University of Miami right now. And, he used to tell me the story, like, parents would go to him and, like, oh, not our parents, just in general, like, I don't know how you do it, because he was going to tournaments and showcases, and, he was being pulled everywhere. They're like, I don't know how you do it. And he goes, I remember him telling me, he goes, Richie, all the money that I spent, he goes, I would pay it double just to relive those moments with my son, and the car rides, the plane rides, those times. So, when they think of us, going back into what I want them to feel is, hey, I was with Elite Squad for 3-4 years. That was the best time of my life. Waking up, going to play doubleheaders, and then hanging out with my friends and my coaches, going to dinner and doing stuff with them. Like, we want to be part of their family. We hope that we are. They're part of our family. To be honest with you, these kids, I want parents to feel like, hey, man, these guys really care. Whether it's a projected first rounder or it's a kid who's going to a Division II or III school, out of state, it doesn't matter. We care about you. You're part of our family, and hopefully we're part of yours.
And that's one thing I can say, just covering your events and your tryouts. You see the people that come back, and it's not only the high-end kids who are there maybe training, but it's like it's your normal baseball players who played with the elite squad, and you're hugging them just like it doesn't matter if they're a first rounder or they just didn't even play in college. You know what I mean? It's just they mean the same. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have, and speaking of that, we have parents that their kids graduated 2 or 3 years ago that come to our tryout just to see all the new families. And they know, or they have friends that they told to come and try out for us. So they go, I can't tell you how many times I see, former players' parents showing up at our events just to hang out, just to see the elite squad family. Like that means everything to us.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's cool. All right, let's talk about something a little bit different. So, like, as far as some of your players that you've coached.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about obviously there's so many with a good organization. Sure. Who are a couple that stand out that are just flat out tools? So in a second, I'm going to ask you about some gamers, like some maybe not the biggest tool guys, but just great baseball players.
Right.
But start off with your guys who are just flat out tools guys that stand out like, holy cow, I can't believe I had a chance to coach that guy.
Right.
Who are a few that you would name?
Lewis Brinson, obviously, he's now with the Marlins. Yep. He stands out because, and you're right, I've coached so many of them, so I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to apologize in advance if I leave some guys out. Right. I'll probably text you when you leave, like, hey, Plex, I forgot about this kid.
You'll get some texts.
No doubt. Lewis Brinson probably was one of the most impressive kids in a uniform.
Right.
Like, you knew that he was going to be a big leaguer when he was a senior in high school.
Right.
Like, just the way he looked, the way he carried himself. Yep. He did everything that you see these guys on TV do. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was impressive. He was different.
Yeah,
he was very different. Zach Collins, some of the things that he did, when he was an amateur. We go through stories, and I've said this story before. The first year we won the WWBA in Georgia, this kid caught 4 games the last day. And because our catcher got hurt, and the most impressive thing besides catching 4 games is that he was unconscious. He went like 9 for 12 with 6 doubles that day. So like you see these special performances, and you see these guys do things that you're like, they're just different. Luis Guillorme is another one.
Right.
I don't think that, and I've had really good shortstops.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had a shortstop like him.
Right.
And just do the things that he's able to do. It's scary. We talked with our trainer Nick, who I introduced you to. Like, like Nick tells me, it's almost like spidey senses. Because Lewis is not the fastest. Yep. He's not the biggest. But the things that he's able to do on a baseball field, it's his reaction time, his the things that he does. He's the guy who caught the bat in spring training last year. Yeah. So he's like a freak. So there's been a lot of players that do something that you just think to yourself as a coach, you're like, that's different.
Right.
That's different, and he's going to make it.
Yeah.
So those are just some that stick out to me.
Yeah, no doubt. What about on the side where, and I know you have these conversations as a former college coach, you would kind of give them to me like, hey, Plex, the guy he's not going to jump off the page. He's not 6'5", 250 or 230 and ripped up, but the guy can play.
Right.
You know what I mean? What are some of the guys like that, like some super overachievers that that just jump off the screen at you?
You could say that for Luis Guillorme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He was a guy, for people that don't know, I think he was an 11th rounder out of high school. Didn't run, didn't throw, but just could play the game. Right. Just could play the game, and he's probably going to make it to the big leagues in about a year. Yeah. He's probably the first one. But man, there's been a lot. There's been a lot of guys that have, I got to think of them, that have really, I guess, surpassed a lot of people's expectations. But
yeah, I remember you had a left-handed pitcher. Was it Garrett Rooks?
Yep.
He stood out to me when I was writing that down. I remember you were like, I saw him at an event, and I was like, hey, Richie, it wasn't 95. And you're like, Plex, he's not 95, but he's going to give me a win.
Yeah. No, that kid, Garrett Rooks, never lost a game for us in 4 years with Elite Squad.
Right.
Never lost a game.
He's doing well now at Alabama, right?
Yeah, he just came off Tommy John surgery last year. Okay. Pitched his first 2 innings this past week, and he's been doing great. Jason Jackson, who was at FAU, is a good friend of mine, and we text back and forth, and he's surpassing his expectations.
Right.
So and to answer your question, it's a hard question for me to ask because, like, when I coach these kids, I'm also like their biggest fans. So a lot of times it isn't surprising to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like everybody else may get surprised, but I have high expectations for these kids.
Right.
And so like when they're like, oh man, like he made it, I'm like, yeah, like I always expected him to. You know? Yeah. So it's a hard question for me to answer because I believe in them so much, and you always say like, hey, you're biased because you coach a kid, but yeah, I guess I am. Right. My belief in these kids is look, you can make it. It's going to be easier for some, it's going to be harder for others, but it's a tough question because I don't know. I look at them differently while I'm coaching them. If I was a scout and an evaluator, probably be easier to answer that question. But me as a coach, like I try to, if they're lacking confidence, I try to provide that for them. I try to tell them how good they are, how good they can be. They just got to work. So that's a tough question, man. There's a lot of good players out there. Now I'll tell you this: I think there's a lot of our guys that don't get enough credit they deserve. Right. And So but that happens. You know, that happens all the time. You know, and so I don't know. But I'd say if you probably told me like, hey, he was the one guy that, you know, nobody really gave a lot of credit to out of high school, and you know, and is tearing it up right now, I'd probably say Lewis. You know?
Well, I remember he had another. I can't remember who it was right now, but he had another really special middle infielder.
Stephen Kerr.
Yeah. And Stephen Kerr, he's done really well too, right?
Yeah,
he's either a junior or senior, or
he graduated. He got drafted. He actually signed as a free agent last year with the Angels. I believe he's going to the Frontier League this year. But that's a kid that, I mean, again, you know, you want to talk about a guy that may have been overlooked. You know, C.J. Chatham was another one.
Yes.
You know, C.J. Chatham out of high school wasn't drafted and is a second rounder out of college. You know, Sean Anderson. Now that I'm going back to that group, Sean Anderson was Mr. Irrelevant. Was the very last pick of the draft in 2012. Wow. Goes to Florida, gets drafted in the third round. You know, so like there's, you know, now that I look back at it, I start remembering some of these kids where, you know, hey, maybe they were overlooked, you know, out of high school, and now all of a sudden, like, these are guys that might be in the big leagues in the next couple of years. So, you know, but Stephen Kerr, those two up the middle, Louis Guillorme and Stephen Kerr, like, I saw them do things that 16-year-olds shouldn't do. You know, like that's not normal, man. Like, they were so good that in some of the plays that they made where other teams would give them, like, you'd hear oohs and ahs from other teams in the dugout while they're playing them. And, like, their coach is looking at the other team like, what are you doing? But it was special. It was so much fun to watch those two up the middle.
All right, where do you see travel ball in 10 years from now? If you had to say what's something that you can say, well, I know in 10 years this is going to be happening. Is there anything?
I do think it's going to grow. I can tell you, I don't know in 10 years, you know, what exactly it'll be. I do hope, here's my wish, was that there was some type of an association where you had to, in a sense, be a part of. You know, because I think that, like anything in life, I think that there needs to be rules and regulations on what they're doing with kids, who's coaching these kids, and whatnot. So I don't know where it'll be in 10 years. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think that, you know, there's a lot of teams, a lot of events, and there's a lot of positives in it. So I do think it's going to grow. There's going to be more events, more options for people, and options aren't a bad thing either. But I do wish at some point, I guess my wish in 10 years is that there is some type of body or an association or commission to where in order to either play in these events or do this, you know, we're going to monitor it. And for kids' safety, and there's a lot of coaches out there that don't have the kids' best interests at heart. And sometimes they end up hurting them more so than helping them. So I think, like, there needs to be a lot of steps before we get to that point. But that would be, I guess, my wish is making sure that, hey, in order to be part of this, you know, in order to go to a prospect select tournament, you got to be an active member of this association.
More of a quality control
thing. Yeah, absolutely. Just to make sure we got the right people that are, you know, helping these kids out or associating themselves with these kids. You know, so that would be my wish. Where it'll be in 10 years, you know, maybe it's just me being positive, but I think it can get better. You know, it can get a lot better and more. You know, I think a lot of tournaments are implementing, you know, pitch counts. It's a great thing. You know what I mean? Technology. You know, when it comes to velo, to TrackMan, to that stuff is all good stuff. I know there's some people that don't like the technology, but that when it comes to scouting, when it comes to, you know, listen, some kids may not pass the eye test. But if his spin rate on this ball is this, like, hey, that might help a kid.
Might get him a second.
Like,
you
know,
I need to go see that.
100%. You know, so I think we're gonna go and we're gonna get into an age where scouting's gonna change the most. I think. You know, it's gonna be less opinions and more data. So I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I don't think it tells a full story. Like I said, there's no black and white. There's nothing that's perfect. But the more information you have, I think, as a scout, as a coach, the better you are, and we can prevent injuries that way too. You know.
Go ahead and you know, talk about some of the high-level events. What are some of the best events you play in the summer?
Okay, I love the Palm Beach Classic. Okay, that gets us, you know, really kicks off the summer. You got some of the best teams in the country at the best facilities. You know, with tons of college coaches. Okay, I think that's the most important thing. You know, so when it comes to, I'll answer the question this way. When it comes, what I consider the best events are the ones where my players are playing in front of the most amount of colleges. You know, like that's what I consider the best. Like,
and that's what we hear, you know, when coaches call and are looking for where to send their teams. Hey, you know, hey Plex, you know, what colleges came.
Exactly. So that's number one, and it should be for every coach. You know, it's, hey, are my kids going to go and get seen? This is what we're doing it for. You know, if you're just there to chase a trophy, then that means you're probably going to fail 5 out of the 6 tournaments you go to each summer. And that's what you can't you know, value it that way. So I'm going to name the ones that I think have the most college coaches, which is, like I said, Palm Beach Classic. I think to kick off the summer with 100 plus, 180 plus college coaches, it's huge. obviously you have the WWBA in
right.
Georgia. Wilson Premier started doing their events the last couple years. They've done a great job with it. And the Perfect Game World Series
right.
those are like the top 3 that really stick out to my mind that
right.
I think are you can't miss. You got to go. You know,
right.
you got to go to
yeah.
those events.
Yeah,
I'd say those 3.
I think those are awesome events. Okay, so I think I did congratulate you earlier, but the Grindhouse is amazing. It's
Thank you.
Great setup. Just speak about it. Speak about your vision for it, and speak about, I guess you could say, the grind of starting this business and,
right.
and where you're at with it.
Yeah. So the vision for it, it's something that I've wanted to do for years.
Right.
One thing that I felt we were missing as an organization, and just maybe me personally, was the ability to connect to my players all year round.
Right.
You know, and I hate the phone. I hate texting. I hate the phone. I'd rather do this what we're doing. I'd rather you guys come up and hang out with me and,
right.
hey, Rich, we got to sit and talk. I'd rather do it over lunch and us see face to face and talk for an hour
yep.
than us be on the phone. So when I go to my players, you know, the way we do our stuff is, hey, try out for us in December, January. And since we didn't have a field that we owned, or, you know, I wouldn't see them until May.
Right.
So I always wanted to create an environment and I guess a place where we can go out there and develop guys, see them all year round. So now if I got a
right.
pitcher that's struggling on something, or a hitter that's just, hey, he's struggling to do this, or he's struggling in games, hey, come see us.
Right.
You know, come see us, come hang out. Maybe it may not have anything to do with his swing. Maybe he just needed to talk about his approach that day, or just for us to reassure him of some confidence and you know, little things like that. So I always wanted to do this. I started in the development side, you know, when I was in high school, 23 years old, that we talked about,
yep.
you know, I'd leave practice and I'd go do lessons, and I worked with development with kids from 10 years old all the way to, you know, seniors in high school. So
right.
I always loved that side of it. I didn't have it for the last few years because we didn't have a home. So now that it's here, it's been awesome.
Now have you started mixing in? Have you done a few lessons since you've been here?
Yeah. I work with the pitchers a lot. We have
yeah.
we have a our Arm Authority program where we work with the pitchers multiple times a week. They're you know, pitching workouts and really to get these pitchers in shape and moving well. And you know, we work on a million different things. I'm not going to try to do a sales pitch, but and the fact that I get to see our pitchers 3 times a week,
right?
You know, instead of your hey, see me once a week, or if my schedule doesn't work and his schedule doesn't work, it might be 3 weeks before I see him.
Yeah.
These guys come in on a constant basis, and they've kind of built a culture of, you know, hard work, and they push each
right.
other here. You know, they push
yeah.
each other through our workouts. So it's awesome. Yeah, I love getting back into the development side. You know, in terms of the grind, you asked me about the grind.
Yeah.
You know, starting it out, you know, we've been here for a little bit over 2 months. I have an amazing wife and amazing kids that allow me to do this, because there's a lot of nights that we're here. Like I said, I'm here at 9 a.m. As soon as I drop off the girls from school, I'm here at 9 a.m. till about 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
On most nights. You know, there are some nights where I do have help here, where I'll be able to sneak out around 6 o'clock and go hang out with the family. But, you know, part of me, I don't mind the grind. I enjoy it.
Right.
I enjoy it because I'm around kids. I'm around our players. I'm around guys that want to get better. So I'll get here at 9, and all of a sudden I look up and it's 6 o'clock, and I'm like, crap, I got to go home and,
right.
and go meet with the girls, you know. But it's been great, man. I have no complaints. It's a lot. It's long hours, but I love them. The hours
yeah.
that I'm here, it's great. You know, seeing former players come back, you know.
Right.
Former players come back and work out, and the new players coming up, you know, we love it. If you're
right.
a baseball guy, yeah, you'd love it.
All right, couple of last questions, and these are fun questions,
okay.
Hopefully.
Okay.
All right, fried cheese sticks or sushi?
Oh, cheese sticks all day.
I knew the answer to that
yeah,
one.
I know you did.
All right, J-Lo or Lady Gaga?
J-Lo.
You got to represent for the home crowd. All right, who wins in a tug of war? Onel Garcia or Alan Kunkel?
Oof, that's a good one. I'm gonna go with OG, Onel Garcia. Listen, that's Red Dog. You know, back in his high school days, they called him Red Dog for a
right.
reason. You know,
he's getting the dub somehow.
He's just got to stretch. Kunkel's been working
now,
out.
Kunkel's gonna be upset when he.
Yeah, I know. But Kunkel, you're in great shape. Okay, I gotta go with the elder statesman here. You know,
Kunkel just slammed his protein down.
Yeah, I gotta go with OG on that. OG's
right.
got to stretch though. Well, no, make sure you stretch before you do this tug of war.
If we're talking the best ladies man on the coaching staff, right off the top of your head, who is it?
Ooh. I gotta make sure they don't have like wives and girlfriends.
Pass.
Yes.
Pass.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sport that you're better at: golf or basketball?
Oh, Now golf, unfortunately.
I see you as like a 5.8 average a game in high school type basketball player.
Yeah, lots of assists though. Lots of assists.
Good guy.
Yeah. I'm a good locker room guy. I love basketball. You know, it was my first love growing up, but I stayed 5'10", and my old man said, "Hey, it's time for you to stick to baseball." He was right.
Yeah,
I'm
good
glad
move.
he did.
All right, Kanye West or Jay-Z?
Oh, Jay-Z.
What animal would you have a better chance of taking down if your life depended on it? A gator or a bear?
Oh my God. That's a good. Gator or bear? I would probably say, dude. I'm in trouble either way, man. What would you pick?
I think that I saw a video go viral of a little girl like put her fingers in the eyeballs of a gator. So
Jesus.
And that like scarred it. So I think I'd try that.
But how'd she like? She went like this.
I'm running regardless.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm gonna say gator. I'm gonna try to outlive a gator.
All right, you got X amount of money to spend. New rims on the car or a new purse for the wife?
New rims on the car. That's not even. I didn't even hesitate. New rims on the car.
All right, man. Thanks for having fun with us, man. And hopefully, you know, obviously what you mean, the prospects like baseball. So hopefully this podcast turns out great.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, especially the first one.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, bud.
All right, yeah.